G'day, welcome to New Game Plus TV live on Twitch. You might be joining us on C31, C44, or listening as a podcast. I'm Cringe, and this week I'm joined by Don, Cart, and Meg, and we're going to be getting into a lot of... It's going to be a very meaty show. I think it's one of the thickest shows we've had in quite a while. Part of it is because we've been playing a bunch of games that have come out over the last month or so. Also, this little thing happened, like new consoles came out, so I guess we're going to maybe address that.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have any consoles here.
Yeah, so Don, you have been playing Dirt 5, and did you do our grid review as well?
Yes, not the grid review, but I have done the F1 2020 review. I have done the Project Cars 3 review. So this is at least the third Codemasters racing game to come out this year. Turns out I play a lot of them, so I'll have my thoughts on Dirt 5 later.
Very excited to hear about it. Kurt, you've been playing Pikmin 3, one of only 3,200,065 that's how numbers work, Wii U remasters to Switch, and you have some thoughts about that.
Okay, first of all, I'm going to correct you on that number. It is 3,572.
Thank you.
Get it right next time. Okay. And yes, so I would say it's probably one of the last big heavy hitters in terms of the Wii U. It's probably going to also segue into a conversation that we've probably been needing to have for quite some time. It is in fact the Nintendo Switch intervention known as "Why Were you doing this to me?"
Were you doing this to me?
Yes, but Pikmin 3 is interesting. I'm really keen to get stuck into that and tell you why I like it and parts of why I loathe it. But yeah.
And Meg, you have been playing Dark Pictures Anthology. Last Hope, I think it's called?
Little Hope, actually. I am a huge aficionado of the narrative, story-driven survival horror games. I think every single one that's ever existed in the last, how many years I've been on this show, I've snapped up every one. And this one is, I can't wait to deep dive on this one too. Lots of gore and horror, jump scares. I'm here for it.
Good stuff. Before we get into any of those reviews or indeed our first impressions of the consoles, let's jump into the gaming news headlines of this week. Xbox has announced that Project xCloud is coming to Australia in a preview phase starting from November 18th. The service will be free while it's in preview and can be signed up for now through the Xbox website, including only 25 games like Ark Survival Evolved, Devil May Cry 5, Forza Horizon 4 and Halo the Master Chief Collection. It will only be available for Android devices through the Xbox game streaming app. A Sony executive has said that the transition from PS4 to PS5 will take about 3 years. Speaking with Japanese site AV Watch, Sony's SVP of Global Product Strategy and Management, Hideaki Nishino, insisted that forward compatibility is important and that consumers will see cross-generational content that supports both PS4 and PS5 for a few years yet. The current assumption is that the transition from PS4 to PS5 will take about 3 years, Nishino said. We have more than 100 million PS4 customers, but we will do our best to move to PS5 as soon as possible. CD Projekt Red has reaffirmed its commitment to launching Cyberpunk 2077 in December following its most recent delay. This delay was made to bring parity to Cyberpunk 2077 across 9 versions of the game that span across current gen, next gen, and PC. When a user voiced concern about a further delay on Twitter, CD Projekt Red's global community lead Marcin Momot posted a photo of the Cyberpunk 2077's header image on Twitter, which shows the current December 10th release date.
It's been a fascinating and frustrating time to be a wrestling fan, and just as equally if you like wrestling games. After the disaster that was Ww2k and the announcement that the series will be taking a year off to rebuild for a new game in 2021, 2K haven't quite tapped out on the whole annual wrestling game thing. Ww2k Battlegrounds is the latest effort by the publisher, and just like watching wrestling in 2020, it's both fascinating and frustrating. Ww2k Battlegrounds could more or less be considered the wrestling equivalent of NBA 2K Battlegrounds, basically an arcadey take on one of their existing franchises. While basketball has long had an over-the-top streak, that same streak is effectively built into the core tenet of wrestling itself, with a combination of ridiculous characters and storylines to keep people invested. In many ways, Battlegrounds is a breath of fresh air for a series that has long struggled with being a wrestling sim, yet still feeling as arcadey as it does. It openly embraces the ridiculousness with arenas packed with interactive objects, a variety of different locations, and characters looking like action figures. It also does a decent job of feeling fresh, with long familiar match types having some new gimmicks and ideas keeping you on your toes. Battlegrounds is at its best when you've got other people to play with, because there's a good amount of chaos without feeling too overwhelming, meaning that matches can be frantic, but also readable. On top of that, there's a surprisingly easy learning curve and a good amount of options as far as what your character can do in any given situation, so it won't take you all that long to get into the game and know what to do. There's also a surprising amount of modes and content for this kind of game. While there's not a ton of match types compared to other wrestling games, there's an attempt to provide something of a match suite much like with Ww2k, but with a limited scope. The highlight here is the ability to create your own wrestler, which is a surprising addition in an arcade game like this. Though, don't expect a ridiculous amount of options of variety though, it's nice that it's there, but it's a little too limited. The game also features a surprisingly deep roster with just about everyone you'd want to play as from the Raw and SmackDown rosters, and a handful of legends. There's even free DLC coming that'll add more characters to play as, but for reasons we'll get into later, this isn't as exciting as you'd think. By far the most interesting mode that the game has is King of the Battlegrounds, an online mode which is more or less an infinite survival mode against other players. You work to become the last person standing, take on all challenges as you maintain your crown. Coupling this is that the game features cross-platform multiplayer, meaning that in theory, there's a healthy pool of players to come after your crown. Now I say in theory, because I wasn't able to get a match going, but it's a genuinely fantastic idea and one that could only really be done in this day and age. That's ultimately where Ww2k Battlegrounds starts to run out of steam, especially when you look at some of the other modes and play it for longer bursts. This is especially true when you dive into the game's single-player campaign, which is nothing more than a series of matches tied together with the loosest possible story, with characters you struggle to care for, and a story told almost exclusively in static comic pages. It's a good idea on paper, but the execution doesn't feel all that exciting. One of the major issues that the game grapples with is that it feels kind of soulless. While the WWE are fiercely protective of their characters and how they present themselves to the world, you wouldn't know it by looking at Battlegrounds, where a lot of the roster shares moves, animations, and taunts. Now in fairness, 2K have been patching the game to include more unique animations for specific characters, but it feels like they need to go further. It's one thing for entrances to be samey, it's another for playing each character. The same goes with commentary. While we do get the novel combination of Jerry the King Lawler and Mauro Ranallo, it never really feels like the two gel all that well, plus a lot of their material is generic at best. Jerry gets the vast majority of lines and are utterly insipid, and Mauro's pop culture zingers never really land. It won't also be long before you hear the same overly generic lines repeated constantly. By far the worst aspect of the game is the character unlocking system. While unlocking characters isn't an idea I'm opposed to, the implementation here is something that leaves a lot to be desired. Effectively, the issue is twofold. Firstly is the amount of characters you need to unlock, which comprises a large majority of the roster, estimating around 2/3 or so. Complementing this is that most of the unlockables are characters you'd actually want to play as, with most of the current WWE champions, both at the time of release and currently as I'm recording this, needing to be unlocked. Secondly, the method of unlocking is a pain. Effectively, the unlocks are split. You'll unlock a selection of characters progressing through the single-player campaign, while the rest are unlocked in a separate menu. These are where the majority of the character unlocks are, and unlike the ones in the campaign, these require a currency to unlock, either the game's ownable one or a premium paid currency. While 2K are positioning the game as effectively a cheaper title than some of the other sports games, which you could argue helps to explain the amount of unlocks and reliance on microtransactions, it's on the upper edge of what you consider a cheap game. While you can certainly grind out currency to unlock more characters, it's not ideal for a game angled as a multiplayer game with such a large roster and a limited amount of initially playable characters. It's something to be expected in a free-to-play game, not in a game I can buy at retail. Ww2k Battleground serves as yet another reminder of what 2K Games' sporting efforts are all about. At its core, there's a decent game in here, but everything around the game remains questionable. It's great that it exists, because Lord knows we need more arcade sports games in this world, and it's fun in short bursts, but it's not something that'll really tide you over until next year's WWE game.
Back with us here on New Game Plus TV, live on Twitch. You might be joining us on C31, C44, or listening as a podcast. I'm Cringe, here with Don, Cart, and Meg. And Dirt 5 is not, well, Dirt 5 might be a next-gen title.
Well, I've got some thoughts on that, actually, because, well, normally at the start of a console generation launch, we typically see like the standard games that show off the flashy, shiny new graphics, which normally is a racing game. We haven't seen anything like that from Sony or from Microsoft. So in comes Codemasters to deliver with Dirt 5, which is the latest in its off-road racing series. And upfront, I have to say, like, it does deliver as that visual showcase. Mind you, I have to say that I have been reviewing this on PC and on a not new PC, I'll just say. So I've had to switch all the settings to medium. But even through this, I will have to say that that the graphics, the game has a really impressive art style. Like, it knows that it's a console launch title, so it knows what is flashy and shiny in the immediate. So it's just the art style and in that element is highly exaggerated. Like, just take the settings for instance. So the game has various locales from around the world, like Brazil, Norway, China, America, but each of them are loaded with basically every visual trope you can imagine, like just stacked one on top of one another. So Brazil, you're basing through favelas and rainforests, or whatever is left of them at the moment, all under the watchful eye of Christ the Redeemer. In Norway, you're basically driving through seaside towns under an aurora borealis at this time of day, at this time of year, localized entirely within your console game.
Was it similar to like how like every Japanese game in the 90s, if it was like an arcade game, like a racer or a fighting game, suddenly all just existed right near Acropolis?
Basically, yeah. No, yeah, like there is a Greece level, and there is a lot of and it is exactly what you would expect.
So Acropolis.
Yeah.
Nice.
But also, yeah, like, but on top of that, like, the dynamic weather effects here are also incredibly cranked up to celebrate the shiny new console. So we've seen dynamic weather before, like in something like, say, Forza Horizon 4, like, really showed it off. But here, like, in the space of a 3-lap race, you can go from rainy to sunny to stormy.
It's like Melbourne.
It's basically as if they set the weather to Melbourne. Yeah, you can control things like whether you have whether you have ABS braking or whether you have or you can even turn on full braking assist if you really want. You can have anti-lock steering as well. Like, it's that sort of thing. I tend to turn them mostly off because just because I've been hanging around these video games for too long. But like, the options are there, and like I said, like, and you can set the AI to various degrees of difficulty as well, even if they are pretty badly tuned, like, they are still there. So like, the game very much leans more towards the accessible side of things, with some considerations paid to the serious business crowd. But Codemasters also knows that the serious business crowd will probably be still playing Dirt Rally 2.0 and F1 2020. They won't be playing Project Cars 3 because no one deserves Project Cars 3.
No, that's fine. I mean, like, at least they've got the focus testing of, like, if you want more of a simulated rally experience, Dirt Rally is your jam, and this, rather than something with Project Cars 3 where it tries to just, it caters to too many people, therefore catering to none. So at least this seems a bit, I mean, as threadbare as it is, it's still at least a focused product.
Like, don't get me wrong though, like the core tenets of what you hope for from a Dirt game is still there. Like, the cars still feel really great to handle. Like, they feel like they have a heft and a weight to them. And even if it is ridiculously easy to Scandinavian flick around a corner, although I don't think this game will call it a Scandinavian flick, I think they'll call it like something incredibly basic, or something basic and incredibly branded, because my God, this game has tons of branding associated with it. They call it
Pepsi presents Power Slide.
The Pepsi and Power Slide, literally Pepsi is a sponsor in this game. Pepsi Power Slide brought to you by AMD.
No.
But nonetheless, like, it's like, even though it is easy to drift around corners, it still feels really great to do so. And even and there is a cockpit view on offer, and it, like, I kind of spent a lot of my time racing in that view because, as simplified as it was, it still felt fun.
So is it as visceral as, say, like Drive Club, or
visceral? Like, is that how you would describe Drive Club? Wasn't Drive Club kind of?
Well, I mean, I think I'm fairly certain it was the guys who did Need for Speed Shift went on to do Drive Club, and a lot of the stuff is really just kind of, a lot of it is spectacle. It's really in your face. Like, the action in the cockpit is actually quite high octane.
Like, admittedly, there isn't like the full detail in the cockpit, so you don't have like, say, a bobblehead, reacting to the world physically like you did with, say, Dirt 2.
Ray traced windscreens. Yes.
You know, there is no windscreen activation button like there is with Dirt Rally.
That's unfortunate. Maybe next year.
Look, as much as you're saying that there is a lot of the game being phoned in, there is a lot of threadbare like functionality. It I guess is a feature complete game, but is not particularly thick. Double C on the features, right? Like. It is still a fun game in spite of those things.
No, yeah, like as long as you temper your expectations and think of this as the launch title that it is, then you'll have a good enough time. Like it kind of actually reminds me, if we want to go back many a year, it reminds me of MotorStorm for the PlayStation 3, another driving launch title, another off-road driving launch title featuring an array of car genre, let's just say, to show off the impressive dirt physics and lighting and shadows. They like both MotorStorm and Dirt 5 offer that same sort of experience. Like if you go into Dirt 5 expecting that level of launch console game, you're going to get a satisfactory arcade off-road racing experience and a visually stunning one at that. I think, like I said, I haven't actually had a chance to play this on the next-gen consoles. Yeah. You just don't go into this game expecting anything deeper, anything like a traditional Dirt game, I reckon.
Look, as long as it's not as bad as Fuel was back on the 360, I think we'll be all good. Dirt is out now on Windows, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series. Don, you've been playing it, like you said, on Windows, on medium settings, but if you're playing this on a next-gen console, you can expect the graphics slider to be ramped all the way up to the max.
And the frame rate to be super smooth.
And your dreams to be powered, indeed. You're hanging out with us here on New Game Plus TV. Stick around. We've got more video game goodness coming up in just a bit. You were here with us on New Game Plus TV live on Twitch. You might be with us on C31, C44, or listening as a podcast. I'm Cringe, here with Don, Cart, and Meg. Dark Picture Anthology. This is a narrative-heavy series, is my understanding, Meg.
I guess you've kind of nailed it. That's a wrap. Let's just...
Oh, we're done.
That's review. No, that's it. I am really pumped to be here to review this title tonight. It is basically the second installment in a series of standalone interactive survival horror games by, I guess it's Supermassive is the developer. We're published by Bandai Namco, and it's called the Dark Pictures Anthology. This particular title in the series is called A Little Hope. And to be honest, I've had to really try to remember the title of this game a lot. It doesn't really roll off the tongue very easily. It's not really easily.
It doesn't have the mouthfeel of Man of Medan, doesn't it?
I love that you did like the cigar puff, like a Man of Medan.
The mouthfeel.
Yeah, like, have that ring to it. I'm not gonna lie to you. But anyway. I'm digressing. It's on PC, Xbox, and PS4. And actually, doing a little bit of a deep dive, it's supposed to be like on a big picture level, like a series of 8 standalone horror games in this Dark Pictures Anthology. And we're up to the second. The next one's due next year, and maybe that'll be on next gen. Who knows? But anyway, essentially, they're all sort of set in the same universe. They're linked through this guy called the curator, who's like a narrator that helps manage the pacing of the game. And I guess he helps manage the story. So he kind of reflects on the chapters as you progress and makes fun of your choices because you suck or you've killed somebody, or maybe be more strategic next time if you can anticipate something coming up. But essentially, I'm going to give a little bit of a sizzle of the story that doesn't give away any spoilers. So hear me out. All right. So trapped by a mysterious fog in the abandoned town of Little Hope, 4 college students and their professor search desperately for a means of escape, whilst visions of the town's gruesome and sinister past haunt them from the shadows. Get hyped. Shadow ghosts, monsters. Yes. Okay. I'm hooked. Like, this is the first sentence. I'm in. All right. In order to stay alive, you take turns playing as the 5 different characters to work together and uncover the mysteries behind these dark apparitions before the evil forces drag each of their souls to hell. And it doesn't disappoint. Like, part of me plays these games to, I guess, see if I can keep everybody alive, or in a second playthrough, kill everybody and just like make whatever decisions I feel like it. Once I've like really cared about the story, and you make a second playthrough to see like what decisions and like choices in the narrative that you can make that kill everybody, and that seeing all the amazing, gruesome, gory deaths that you can, I guess, achieve, which is the best part. Anyway, so I guess pulling it back a bit, I'm not sure if you guys have seen me review any other games of this type of genre on New Game Plus, but things like Right. Like last time I reviewed Don't Nods, Tell Me Why, and all the Telltale series. And I guess a common thread around this genre is my biggest gripe of like the narrative choices having little to no meaningful impact if you make a decision of like the tell your own adventure style. And like it doesn't really matter what you choose, the same thing happens. It's super linear still. I guess in this particular story, I feel like that it didn't live up to the hype. Like nothing really felt significant in terms of the story itself. But I still really, really frothed over the jump scares. There was plenty of them.
Like it's a good story, but it's not like you don't feel in control of the story is the concern.
Correct. Yes. It was extremely linear. And I guess this particular, like the Dark Pictures Anthology really thrive off you playing, it's a third person experience and you explore the location to discover clues. And it's so linear that you can't like go off the path. So it's like the clues are like set there for you and they glimmer in the dark and you're like, oh, guess I'll go there then. So lots of that. And I suppose as much as they set up these really cool characters all seemed intertwined, they didn't really have much of a significant backstory and didn't make me want to care about them very much. Or if they lived or died kind of thing.
You've been to the catalog, so from Until Dawn to Man of Medan to Little Hope.
Right.
Speaking of, as you're saying, it's a kind of nothing title. Like, have you noticed an improvement in those games, like as they've gone along, or are they still making similar mistakes that they were making even going back to the Until Dawn days?
I was hoping that you guys would ask me this actually, because I'm not sure if I've become desensitized by the genre and I'm just expecting more, but I don't believe this Little Hope is like setting a new bar. I think it's meeting the same caliber as what Man of Medan delivers. So if you've really, really enjoyed that, you have to check this out. And I'm going to say, if you love this genre, you have to check Little Hope out. Like this is a must play in that genre of interactive survival horror, 110%, but it's not groundbreaking. It's not like mind-blowing, but I really appreciated what it delivered. And I think that there's not much out there at this moment that scratches that itch for me like Little Hope did do. I definitely think it was good. Yeah.
So what did you play Little Hope on?
PS4.
Is it out on everything?
Yep.
It is, yeah. Windows, PS4, and Xbox One.
That's correct.
There you go. It is out on everything. Well, not next gen. We don't have next gen. But like you said, maybe the next one will be when it releases next year. You said is the next.
Yes, the third installment is like extremely rumored to be 2021, and they tease it in the end of the credits of the game. Which I'm sorry, it's not really a spoiler. It's kind of on the internet. Sorry, and like it's called House of Ashes. So get around that. And also, if you're into this genre, I did say last time I reviewed the Don't Nod, Tell Me Why, that they're actually releasing another game called Twin Mirror, which is their first self-published game, coming December 1st this year. And I'm going to be reviewing it right here on New Game Plus as well. So hang in there for that when it does come out.
Cool. So if you do want to hang out for that, and I don't know why there would be any reason for you not to, make sure you check us out on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, /New Game Plus or at New Game Plus TV on all of those. The YouTube channel is youtube.com/New Game Plus TV. We will put up full interviews like with Meg. You spoke with the Rising Star Award recipient.
100%. It was great. Like, so GCAP was a month ago, and we were robbed of our con season here in Melbourne or in Australia this year. So missing out on like PAX Australia, all the Comic Cons and things like that. But Jack did a lot of work behind the scenes, as did these guys here too, for the IGEA Game Developer Conference.
There was GCAP, which is the Game Connect Asia Pacific, and then it was the Australian Game Developer Awards.
Yeah.
We worked on it. So you spoke with the recipient of the Rising Star Award, who's someone who's not like, fresh in the door, but on the way up.
Yeah, Jared Farquhar Nickel. He won his Rising Star Award for being such an amazing brand ambassador in the local video game scene, and all the work he's been contributing to helping others get to where they want to be in the industry as well, which is really selfless and really exciting. And we do a bit of a deep dive about his career, where he's going to, and what he's done to win the award.
Cool. So that one's coming up. You should be able to check out the full interview on YouTube, but if you want to see it first, you can check us out on Twitch, twitch.tv/NewGamePlusTV, Thursday, 8 p.m. Melbourne time. And if you want to check us out on C31 or C44 on your telly, you can look up the guides. Monday in Melbourne, Friday in Adelaide, Meg. We're not on Wednesday night.
Oh my God, I got it wrong.
Yeah,
Sorry, Mum.
Wednesday nights. Oh, no, that's not. But that is a wrap on the show for this week. Don, Cart, Meg, thank you for hanging out with us.
Thanks, guys. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, viewers. Thank you, Jack.
Love you lots. Love all of you. Thank you very much.
Lots of love here on New Game Plus.
All the
Thank
love.
you so much for joining us, and we'll catch
See you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.